Well, it looks like I am live, and welcome to another episode of Money Talk, where we don't just talk about money, we talk about ways to enhance other people's lives with the products and services that we have so that other people can get better at what they're doing and they can make money. So, I have just one special request for you today, and that is to be staying tuned because I have something that I've never done on this show, and I'm about to do it. So stay tuned.
Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda K's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda K. But when you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda K.
Now, I did say that I'm going to do something I have never done before, and it's true. This is going to be an unusual program today because I am going to bring a guest on that I hadn't expected to. Now, why should I have to do something like that I didn't expect? Because I always have something really special for you. And today is no exception. But I'm going to add to the stage my producer right now. And let's see, my producer is off camera. So she's going to let me sit here and go, I don't know what I'm doing. We had a guest scheduled today for this event. And somebody that I think would have been really interesting to you because the person that was supposed to come on stage wasn't here in the studio. And the last, I always have my guests come in at least a good 2 minutes to 15 minutes, to be honest, to give me a little comfort zone, to let them get comfortable about being on the show and about what we're going to talk about. And this guest wasn't there at 15 after, nor at 20 after. And at 25 after, her publicist came on and said, I can't find your guest. In fact, I think I just found her. She's at the ER. Now, that would be the emergency room, and nobody goes to the emergency room unless they have an emergency, right? So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you something that I did in the summit for the last 3 days. And some of you were in that summit. Some of you were speaking on that summit. But I hosted my own summit called Perfect Pitch. And if you've ever thought about how do you get on certain stages, how do people, what do they even talk about? This guest is going to tell you about a crazy, crazy stage. What's the biggest stage you could imagine being on? And I don't mean like an awards show or something like that, but you're all by yourself and you're there. If you didn't say TEDx, then you're in for a surprise. So my guest at the moment.
I'm caught off guard.
You are not Valerie. You are not Valerie Brooks.
I'm not.
Here we are improvising the best that we can. And so what we're going to do is, Kate, are you able to share one of our guests with their video? And I think that our audience would be completely 100% entertained. So what do we need to do? I think you need to hit the present.
Yep. Let me do that right now.
Right? And then see this. Now I'm showing you how to use an opportunity to. Wait a minute. So we can disappear on the side, but I think you guys are going to love this. So let's get it. Let's roll it. Let's do it.
All right.
Wait a minute. Wait. Without further ado, welcome to my stage, Adam Lewis Walker. Another exciting opportunity to hear one more speaker. Imagine what it would be like if you could get your message out there to the world so that you could become that thought leader. If you've ever thought about public speaking, you've probably experienced the dread, the thought, and maybe one of the biggest fears, which is public speaking. But our next guest is no stranger to that. In fact, his first stage was a TEDx stage. Welcome to our stage, Adam Lewis Walker. Hey, Adam.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm delighted. Adam, you've got such a great story. I wonder if I could encourage you to tell our listeners what possessed you to be on a TEDx stage as your first stage.
Because I had a harder stage before that. I think still the hardest job in the world is being a teacher to teenagers.
Oh my God. Oh, wait a minute. They weren't just any kind of teenagers. They weren't your model students, were they?
It was in South London, metal detectors to get into the college. I'd say most of them, all of them were bigger than me. It was, you had to be entertaining.
They're not big fans. They're hecklers. They challenge you. You don't dare turn your back on them, right?
Yeah. Even if you build a relationship, you just got, it's one of the things. If you're feeling a little bit off that day, they sense it and they take advantage and think, probably unless you're at like comedy club, adults generally give you a little bit more time. Whereas, you really, when you're teaching, you really got to hook them, get their attention, grab their attention, which is much like a TED talk, TED title, and a pitch. Obviously, doesn't matter how good your knowledge is if you can't hook them and make it interesting and relevant to that individual in front of you.
Walk me through that process of how you got to the stage and what you decided as a result of that.
Basically, to go through the process of how I got to it initially, tried all and everything. It took me about 3 years. So a lot of what I do with my clients is obviously saving them time. It takes them about 3 months now, and avoiding things that don't work. Unless you've got 2 ways you can go about it. You've got to throw time or money or both at it. Usually for anything, when you get a coach or someone who's got kind of the blueprint or they've spent the time and the money, you can not necessarily shortcuts, but you can go there in the most efficient way and ultimately make sure you get it, because it's not guaranteed. And that's the value. You can't just jump up and go and get it without earning it. So
that's so true. Well, Adam, tell me just a little bit more about TEDxing and how to accelerate that process. Would you please?
Sure. 3 secrets to become a TEDx speaker. I want you to think about how valuable if your reputation preceded you. And I don't just mean inside your town or in your family, you may have a reputation, good or bad, but I mean out there in the wider world and also online. Also, your reputation preceded you so you could get booked and paid on the stages that you choose, that you want, that, it'd be a pleasure for you and whatever your area of expertise is to make that biggest impact. And that's something ultimately a TEDx can do for you. And I do believe it is the key to becoming a higher paid and in-demand thought leader. And so I'm going to talk you through my talk accelerator method. You see the X and the acceleration there. So we're going to, as I said, shorten your success curve so it can happen quicker. That's my first TEDx talk in 2016. And off the back of that, because that was my first TEDx, that's my first public speaking outside of the classroom. These are some of the cool places I've got to speak at. And the Hollywood Roosevelt was actually the second speaking gig I got after the TEDx, where it was the original home of the Oscars. And so my speaker was a really nice location. So this is my podcast as well, Amplify Your Mission, a free resource for those of you interested, for authors, coaches, and speakers, which I imagine some of you are now, or entrepreneurs and professionals. And so that is obviously any way to amplify your mission. The TEDx is obviously one clear way that I think personally is brilliant, but also podcasting or leveraging the power of podcasting and publishing either in magazines, online, and traditional books. So I do help others get to the stage quicker. So 3 secrets, TEDx hacking, and that's ultimately how anyone can get to the TEDx stage in 90 days or less. And when I say in 90 days, I mean book it. So secret 2, idea formula, how to really develop that idea, specifically your pitch for TEDx, because that's how you land it. And then the event checklist to enhance your research and really ultimately make you land this. If you look at that, there's nothing there about really talk creation, because that's something to look at more deeply once you've landed your TEDx talk. I don't want you to be tucked away for years creating this perfect talk that no one's going to see. You've got to land it, and you always have time to prepare. So when I discovered TEDx, when I was teaching in a college, my students instantly stopped and paid attention. So that's when I paid attention, and I was like, that is something I need to do. That is a tool that I need to help get my ideas outside of the classroom. Since my TEDx, I turned it into a best-selling book, Awaken Your Alpha. That's the title of my TEDx. And then I actually went on a traditional book tour as well. So I went around, as well as a podcast book tour, virtual book tour only. But I did go internationally to Toronto and Canada, England, and a few other places. And so that credibility by association with like Brian Tracy, Lisa Sasevich, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, Jim Quick, Lewis Howes, that's the sort of thing, that credibility by association is your credibility by association with TED. It's such a well-known brand like Disney or Nike. It gives a certain level of credibility, specifically in the expertise of the field and the subject you're talking about. This is Tony Robbins. He gave his TEDx talk on the TED main stage, which is an annual event that is like $10,000 a ticket. The general public do not know the difference between the TED event and the TEDx's event, which are more local and you get a chance, more opportunities to speak at. They will, rightly so, put you alongside a Tony Robbins, a Brene Brown, who were relatively unknown before they gave their TED talk. Not Tony, but Brene Brown was. And her talk was actually a TEDx. So this is, for example, Ron Kaiser, just to give you a case study of someone who, you know, he was 83 or 82 when he started, I believe, 83 years young. And he had just, you know, an expert in his field. And he had always wanted to give a TEDx talk and just kind of assumed it would happen because he had the goods, as it were. He's an expert, and he was an author as well, and a podcaster, Rejuvenation. So his talk is now over 200,000 views, way more than mine. He dodged a lot of mistakes that I made, and I'm really happy. And this, you know, it's really lots of good things have happened for him. And TEDx talks, the subscribers now are over 40 million. So a really wide reach. So in terms of laying this out, okay, how do you approach this? So the blueprint, so how anyone can get it, is really, you need to be really clear about what your message is. Don't think about TEDx, just what is your message? What are you trying to do in your life, your business? Like what are you all about? So this should be clear. If it's not, you really do the work there first before you move on to the step 2. And that's research, because if you don't know what your message is and the sort of things you might talk about, then it's going to be harder for you to research the right events, because they do have themes. And I'm going to dig more into that in secret 3. Then the idea is taken from your overall message and mission. Very rarely is it the entire mission you're on. It could be, but usually it's a more unique angle and perspective of your mission and your message. And I do idea clarity calls, complimentary as well. For anyone listening and looking at this now, you can reach out to me. And that's where we really need to get specific. It's very common people try and say too much and ultimately try and put their message, their message and mission as their TEDx talk. Whereas we want to go more specific, more niched, and more unique. Then the application. If you look, it's step 4 for a reason. A lot of people, might jump straight to application, and it might be pretty rough. You only get one chance to make a first impression. So just go through these steps, either what I'm telling you now, or reach out and get some help, do some work. But this is the order you should go into it, I believe, at least in my process. That's a proven process. And then step 5, MIH. What is that? Bit of curiosity, but make it happen. Don't give up. You know, it's a mindset. If you're going to do this, commit to it. So I'm going to be a TEDx speaker, and I'm going to go through the process, and I'm going to take a couple of knocks, but I'm going to keep moving forwards, and I'm going to make it happen by any means, ultimately, within your own morals and within the law. Okay, so make it happen. This is like just being relentless. So talk creation, you see, again, I put that in there because only then, as creative people, do I start thinking about more details, what you're actually going to say within the talk. Okay, because you don't want to get stuck. Everyone wants to jump to talk creation near the start and think about all the great things you can say. But talk creation, yeah, you can get the skeleton, and I do think it enhances your pitch by knowing a little bit more, but don't get stuck in that aspect. Even if you get your talk preparation wrong, you're still going to be a TEDx speaker because you've landed it. So secret 2, this is idea formula. And it's very rare that you're going to wake up one day like ping, and you're going to have that perfect TEDx worthy idea just right out the gate. But people use this as an excuse to procrastinate and say, I don't really think I've got the right idea. I'm not sure if my idea is worthy for TEDx. But let's make it specifically even better for the TEDx formula. And if it doesn't pass the criteria that I'm going to talk to you about now, back to the drawing board, work on it harder. And this is something all my clients are always developing. And until it gets to that point, we're like, wow, that is such a strong idea, such a unique perspective. That needs to be on the TEDx stage. The idea is the star. Okay, so this is something I want to focus on. And if there was people here live, I'd say, you know, whose attention are you trying to grab? Specifically one person, not the audience at this stage. You're trying to grab the event organizer's attention. So you've got to get their attention. And really, ideas are, you know, the currency of the 2024 as it was. They're so valuable, and you've got a valuable idea, so you need to get it out there. So Michelle Mehta, she booked her talk, expert in her field, no doubt. Okay, we landed in about 8 weeks. Her idea was not clear coming in. You know, it was one of them scenarios like, what idea would you share? 5 minutes later, I'd heard a lot of things, and I'm like, I'm not quite clear what it is. So we're going to get you clearer than that. So as I said, the message, that's where you're coming from. That's not your idea necessarily. Very unlikely, usually. We can do better than that. Within your message, you've likely got about 5 or 6 TEDx-worthy ideas or ways you could go about this. So specifically, let's try and pull them out. What ideas catch someone's attention? Usually my attention, because I'm working with a client, I'm unbiased. I'm maybe not an expert in the field they're talking about, but I'm like, oh, what's that? I call it the eyebrow raise test. They are potential ideas. Then once you then put the filter, usually it's people come in and they start talking about, oh, my TEDx idea, I had this adversity, like me, I had a pole vault accident, and then I did this, this, and this, and they come back and hurrah, adversity to triumph, the hero's journey. That is not a TEDx idea, but that is unique to you, whatever your background, your perspective, what's happened to you. You can bring that into your ideas. As you see, it's just one piece and a perspective that no one else shares, but it is not your idea, but it will enhance it. So it could be like, for me, it could have been like pole vaulter's approach to amplifying your message. You search on the internet, I don't think that would be out there. So it needs work, but it's likely niched. It's quite unique. And then finally, the fourth piece that a lot of people forget, that specific event. You're not trying to land a TEDx talk generic everywhere. You're trying to get the attention of one event organizer at one specific event. So what is the link? How have you tailored it to that event's theme, location, individual organizer? And when you get this kind of, I'm going to say trifecta, but it's a quad. When you get this, like that X in the middle, when you get that together, your idea only can't fail to get stronger. Okay, so just put it through that filter and think, how can you be really specific? And you're not trying to cover everything. If people want to know more about you and your mission, your message, this is just the pitch, the hook. They can then click off your TEDx talk, then look onto your website, read your books, follow up with you where you can have anything you want on your website. So how do you stand out within that? So this is a good task. I like to actually give you something physical to do and not just talking concepts. All the ones you see up there are TED titles with millions of views. I asked the question, so straight away that's powerful in a TEDx title. And sometimes just saying, okay, could you put it into a title? That helps enhance your formula, because if you can't put it into a short title, then you need to be more concise. And I do think creativity, as we're talking about, thrives under constraints. So challenge yourself with this. And these are some more famous TEDx talks. And some of the other things, so you've got question, you've got X ways to have the danger of a single story, the happy secret to better work. So happy and work is opposite slightly. How to make stress your friend, contrast. So again, they're playing on like extremes. The power of introverts, again, completely different context, but again, not something associated. Usually you think extroverts, so power of introverts, they're flipping it a little bit. Again, look, see 10 things you didn't know about orgasm, attention grabbing, strange answers to the psychopath test. So what I want you to do with your message, mission, ideas, okay, do something like that. So remove some words. How could you put the idea of what you're thinking about into some of these examples of what have been really powerful pitches that have made it onto the TEDx stage? And ultimately, these talk titles have pitched millions of people so much that they've made them click and watch it and share their talks. So I hope that was useful. When you go looking for your event and doing your research, don't just stop at thinking, okay, I'm looking around my local village or town or city. Okay, what other locations do you have any history? Try to have some kind of link because they like that, but there's always an exception to the rule. The date, not just obviously the date when the TEDx is, be aware of that, what you are and are not willing to commit to this. The event type, you think, oh, there's just TEDx events. Well, there's lots of variations of that kind of standard. There's lots of ones, and some are internal, so you want to be aware of them. But just things just to be aware of. And then the theme. Generally, they all have a theme. Some of them are very specific. Some of them, well, a lot of them intentionally broad, and a lot of them, they're not clear about it. And sometimes they kind of actually attach the theme later when they've got a few talks. But it might be completely a great fit for you, or it might be completely the opposite. So something to bear in mind when you're researching. And then the size. New TEDx events that are opening up, and when they do, their first year or two, they can only be a level 1 event, which is 150 people in the audience. They'd likely be easier to land and pitch that one because they're newbies. So just something to be aware of. Okay, things to think of. And again, depend on your level of expertise. And this is a professional speaker. It'd been the goal of this, again, kind of assumed it was going to happen because very good speaker, no question of that. But the TEDx is its own little beast. You should, I say, pitch specifically for TEDx and not just like, hey, I'm an awesome speaker. I've done all these awesome talks before. That's great. But the TEDx organizers want to know, what's your idea worth sharing? Worked your way through these 3 secrets. I just want you to, if you take one thing away from this, it's if you want to do it, you really can. Just imagine your talk, your message, your mission, your pitch out there to tens of thousands of people, the impact you could have. And it's the most powerful short talk, and it's a great way to pitch. Yeah, idea clarity call, but you can reach out to me. Anyway, thank you for having me. Let's see.
Wow, that I can't believe you got through all of that. Who knew that there were so many different stages to be able to go on to? But I think the most important takeaways here, Adam, is one, to obviously do your research, and then to find somebody like Adam to help you really develop your ideas. If you're considering doing a TEDx, if you're considering that this is your first stage or it's your next stage, make sure you get the right kind of help. And that means reach out to Adam. Do you have a link or something that we can send them to?
So aymission.com, if you go there, there'd be a short video. I have you saw a very quick run through of that. I have the an on-demand training if you want to, so that you can only get the slides that you saw there, the idea clarity call, and then the idea blueprint. You can sign up through there. And then the podcasts, there's the free resource. If you just want to start there and use that, and then I say when you're ready, you don't need to be ready, just reach out to me and have this idea clarity call, because what is useful for that, usually the first time people are really, really putting their ideas out there in the TEDx kind of format is to the organizer, and they usually, like any of us, they're going to be a little bit rougher that first time. So get your first impression out of me, and then the idea is your pitch will be better literally 20 minutes later, just from a few bits of advice.
You heard it here. You heard it here. Reach out to Adam Lewis Walker. Adam, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. Now, can you believe that we didn't have a guest and yet we could just produce a guest out of thin air? So my producer, I want to thank you. It is going to be a short show today because our scheduled guest didn't arrive. She arrived at the wrong place, the ER. So we got to cut her some slack. And so hopefully we'll see her sometime in the future. But thank you all for joining me today, and join me next week when we have another great episode of Money Talk. Do you like to talk about money? If you do, and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindak360.com.